Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Well, here we are then on our wonderful sunny night, and we are stuck in to talk about the old FISBA, as I say. And Ethan, I can't believe that we're at the end of the season, nearly. A few more shows to go, and up with us.
Yeah, it's flew in, and that's it. We've only got one round of premiership games to go, and then the playoffs, and then we'll see who our premiership and championship teams are next season.
Yeah, no, I'll be interested. So we've got a big weekend ahead as well. We've got obviously it's the trophy day for Celtic tomorrow. 55 titles, and but before anybody says it, yeah, it's real titles that Celtic's won. And also on Sunday we'll see who is the finishing in the Premiership playoffs as well. So and then later on tonight we'll talk about the women's game, even because there's some games on at the weekend as well that we were talking about. In fact, we were talking about them on Wednesday show as well. So get your comments coming in. We are on Facebook. We are on, well, not at the moment actually, because we're actually having a bit of issues with Facebook. But yeah, so we're on YouTube, Twitch, and X. So get your comments coming in. But here to talk about the game. So Ethan, it's been a hard fought season. I've done can't remember how many shows I've done. It's been because obviously we've been on for the Celtic games, Rangers games, and the Hearts games, and also the Scotland games as well. So it's been a busy old season. So I'm dying to put my feet up.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was a late January signing, maybe even beyond January. So I've not done probably as near as much as you have, but it's been good to be a part of the team, be a new signing. But yeah, there's been a lot of football to talk about this season, and it seems like with the way things are going, it's only going to get more and more football to talk about each season.
Yep, and also as well, Ethan sent me out really nicely there. So in the next couple of weeks, well, next weekend actually, or next week, we will tell you a bit about something that the locker room team has been working on for next season. So stick about for that one. We might have a new name, or whatever. Don't know. You can guess away, but guess what? I'm not going to tell you. If you give me a fiver, maybe I'll still not tell you. Maybe £20. I don't know about that, but yeah. So stick about for that. There's new kind of ideas coming up for the show as well. So yeah, I mean, even you've been. I think it was later than January, February, March time. What's that? A Bosman deal be done with you? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have been February, because I think it was the Celtic Bayern Munich games, the first ones I remember being on.
Yeah.
Whenever that was.
Yeah. So yeah. So there you go. We've got a few shows left before I hang up my headphones and put my feet up for about 2 minutes, and then, believe it or not, we'll be back again to do it again. Obviously, what's been your highlight of the season? It's been a lot of football to be played, Ethan, but like.
Oh, that's a really difficult question, because I don't have a clue. If I had to pick one moment, I don't think I have one. I think you might need to come back to me on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were going to say coming on the show, but yeah,
They're coming on the show. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the one.
yeah. I'm afraid you're a bit late there. I had to coax that answer out you as well, but no, that will do. So get your highlights in for the season on the chat, and we will read them out as well. Top six Saturday. I think we're going to call this bottom six Sunday. And I think that's going to be because I think it's going to be sunny, nice all weekend. So if you're going out for the football celebration or whatever, get plenty of sun cream on because you'll be a bit like me, burnt like a lobster by Monday as well. So I think there's only one place to start, Ethan, and it's with the champions. It's 12:30 kickoff. It's Trophy Day. It's Celtic against Mirren, and it's Groundhog Day because I don't know about you, but when the fixtures came out for the top six, and you saw Celtic and Mirren, you were like that. Well, that's what it was like when Celtic won the league last season as well.
Yeah, Mirren this time will be coming to Celtic Park needing a result because obviously they've still got a chance to grab fifth off Dundee United and get their last European spot. So Celtic will be parading, obviously, their fourth title in a row, their second on the bounce with Brendan Rodgers. It'll be all feel good for them, but St Mirren will want to sort of not spoil the party because you can't spoil the party on a day like that, but take something from Celtic Park, which would give them a chance. And I think with the way St Mirren have been playing, I know Celtic will be another level of a test, but they'll go there with confidence. And it was a good game last season and the last day, so hopefully we get somewhat of the same this year.
Yeah, was it not 2-1 to St Mirren at one point in the game?
I think it was. I think Celtic might have won the game 3-2 in the end, I want to say. I'll double check that right now, but it was certainly a good, well fought match between the two teams. And you hope for the same. 3-2 Celtic won. And you're right. St Mirren were 1-0 up and then 2-1 up. So hopefully something like that again.
There you go. That a familiar face, Regan Stephen. It's good evening, lads. Well, yeah. I thought you were coming on the show, but obviously, you've got that kind of ideas as well. But yeah, you're welcome to come on, as I say. So yeah, that was I kind of St Mirren was coming to spoil the party, as it were, in Glasgow, and I think that they'll be doing the same tomorrow as well. Before we talk about the game, how big a blow is it for Real Tie to be out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers sort of released that news today after the knock that we spoke about the other night following the game at Pataudry. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who Rodgers throws in for the final, especially because obviously a massive game for Celtic and they would want Rio Hatate there in an ideal world, but he's obviously not going to be there. And dare I say, it might be the last game he's played for Celtic because he could be on the move. There hasn't been any sort of concrete rumours I've seen, but whenever a good player plays in any club, then there's always going to be interest. And Hatate's got and the player, the team of the season again. So I think he'll be definitely on some clubs' minds. I think he'll possibly stay. Maybe even the injury will sort of disencourage teams to actually make a move for him.
Right, so I'm gonna stop the show right now, right? And basically, you know how like back in the day, even during lockdown, I don't know if this happened to you, right? But I was on a few Zoom calls, and what you would say, you get Zoom bombed by somebody coming on Zoom and just making a mess and kind of shouting a lot of different I'm not saying Robbie's going to do that, or well, maybe, because St Mirren fans are capable of anything, as well, and I know where Robbie stayed, so that makes it even worse as well. But yeah, so back in the day, I went on a Zoom call, and I was in a meeting. I don't know if this happened to you, Ethan, but there was about 20 people on the call, and then the next minute somebody come on the call, and basically they were, let's just say they weren't there for the meeting. They were just there for they were showing very inappropriate videos on Zoom. So anyway, so so that was so basically what I'm trying to say is Robbie's not going to do that because he's not got the power. Well, he has got the power, can I ask? Because he's on it as a producer. But Robbie, sorry, that was a big build up for nothing. The show's over. It's like 5 to 7. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I wasn't even meant to come on the show. I was going to go and get a link for Reagan as well, and then I ended up here. But if it's all right, I just want to put in a quick word ahead of tomorrow's game.
Yep.
Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff said after Wednesday night with the draw against Hibs, but look, I'm taking this as a positive. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Maybe no. If it does, then brilliant. It's been another miracle season, but I think what we can say is top 6 again for Robinson's been an incredible achievement, and that group of players have never stopped. Especially after the split, we're still undefeated after the split, so it's been an incredible achievement, and I just want to really come on and say all the best for tomorrow for the players. It's obviously going to be a very tough task. It's a really good Celtic team we're facing that just put 5 goals past Aberdeen, so I'm not saying by any stretch it's going to be a good game or we're going to go and get a result, but I think one thing we can say after this season is we can believe and we can dream that we can go and get a result. We've proven it many times, so if it's not to be tomorrow, it's not to be, but I'm feeling confident.
Yeah, and I think what I was saying to Ethan before you came on there, or Zoom bongers or whatever you want to call it, Robbie, that the last time St Mirren came to Celtic Park in the last day, you were winning 2-1.
Yeah, I think it was Yang that scored late on in the game to go 3-2 up for Celtic. So, look, we can be positive going into the game, but if we go at them, we don't sit back and play with fear. We can get goals against this Celtic team. I don't think it's impossible. I definitely don't think it's easy by any stretch. I think we're going to need to score more than 2 if we want to win the game. So it's not going to be easy, but we can go there and play with belief. I think Mandron and Nagunga will cause Celtic a lot of problems. And hopefully we can get a result, because if we could get Europe again, and look, a draw is good enough. Obviously, I don't think he's spoke about the other game, Dundee United Aberdeen, but depending on how results go there, but a draw might be good enough. So if we can go there, play our best, I truly believe we can. I truly believe we can go and get Europe again.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially after the last Celtic St Mirren game and Paisley. I know the scoreline was 5-2 Celtic, but that game could have easily went any way. Couldn't St Mirren obviously had a big shout for a penalty in that match. So I think St Mirren have shown this season that they can go toe-to-toe on their day with anyone in the league, including Celtic and Rangers. So I think you're quite right to have confidence for the game. But yeah, you just need to better Dundee United's result on the day, which will obviously be difficult considering they've got a whole match against Aberdeen, which will still be a tough test, but going to Celtic Park's a different equation completely.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. What I will say is I don't expect Celtic to be their strongest 11. Whether that matters or not, I don't know, because as I said, they did just put 5 past Aberdeen with what you'd say is a weakened 11, which, by the way, is no disrespect to any of the B team Celtic players, but the first team are different animals. So it'll be interesting to see a lineup tomorrow. I think the one thing I'm interested in is obviously James Forrest. He's yet to get his goal. I have a bad feeling it's going to happen against us, to be honest, tomorrow. I think he'll probably play. So there's definitely still players in there that can hurt us, but I think we're just as good on our day. I think we can be. If we're gone there, we play as well as we know we can. play with it fear. I genuinely think we can go and get a result.
Robbie, your Paul Donaldson asking hi all. I know Robbie never likes to see Aberdeen winning. I wonder why. Do you think we see Gaskin? No, we can't. But we'll be making an exception tomorrow.
I couldn't hope.
Even the goodwill and all that, Robbie. No.
I can't wait for an Aberdeen win tomorrow. I hope, especially against Goodwin. I mean, you know my thoughts on him, so I'm hoping Aberdeen can do the job. But I'm not going to go, guys. I just wanted to come on and say a bit about Sturman. But I know you were talking about them, so I thought I'd pop in. But thank you, guys, again for the incredible season. I think this will probably be one of my last shows. So genuinely, thank you so much for everybody that watches, all the support. It's been a brilliant season.
Yep. Okay, mate. We'll see you soon, Robbie.
See you soon, guys.
Robert.
Right.
There you go. It's amazing who pops into this show. I wonder who else is coming on the show tonight as well. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be quite interesting how, in fact, both teams approach the game tomorrow, because obviously you've got the cup final coming up for Celtic next week. Tomorrow's the last game for St Mirren of the season, but I think that for Celtic point of view, Ethan, it's like this is the last chance to get in the cup final team.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what probably the players have been playing for a wee while now, with obviously the league all but wrapped up. Obviously they wrapped up officially against Dundee United, but there's some players there that maybe started the other night at Pittodrie that are putting in performances and going, well, I've performed here, give me another chance, and maybe I can prove that I am the best man to go into that team for the final. Because this game, I think it'll be close to the strongest team. But I don't know what Rodgers is thinking. He might rotate it again and keep players fresh for next weekend, or he might want to get the players sort of running and playing games, and because I think some players are different. Some players like the rest. Some players play better when they're playing a run of games. I think Callum McGregor's one of them, that if Callum McGregor's not playing, he kind of becomes a wee bit not as effective. Where if you get him, I know that he plays a lot of games, but if you keep him in the team, he keeps fresh, he keeps sharp. And I think that's why you always see him play, even when Rodgers is rotating the team. So I think he might start James Forrest again, because obviously I think everyone at Celtic wants him to get that goal. He obviously kept him on for the full match the other night, and it didn't quite happen, although he played pretty well. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how he lines up. St Mirren will line up with their strongest team. Obviously, this is their Scottish Cup final, and yeah, I think we know how St Mirren are going to play. They've had a distinct style the whole season, pretty much. They've got two strikers. They've got 5 at the back. They'll get in. They'll make it difficult physically, and they'll see what they can do. Since that loss against Celtic last time the two teams played, they've played 8 matches and only lost 1 of them. So that shows the run they've been on. They've been difficult to beat, and they'll go to Celtic Park with confidence, even though they're still the massive underdogs.
I did say, Rob, Ethan, I wonder who else will come on the show. And I'm laughing at Mr. Stevenson here, Men in Black, because I wasn't laughing at your comment, Ethan, right? I was Reagan kind of just put me off. There you go.
Say yes.
Are you enjoying the weather?
Yes, we are.
It's great to be involved, lads. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. You remember that from Top Gun? You reminded me of that, Reagan.
A little bit of problem with the old Premier. Then it logged me out, so I wasn't able to get the link.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we had Robbie on early on from a live location. And by the way, he's in holiday this week as well, so it shows you how comedians for the show. And then this guy come on with sunglasses on as well. I guess as well this show's not live. As well. Oh no, it's live. Okay. Yeah. Secondly, we've got no people watching now. I don't know why that's. So yeah, I was just you were saying about James Forrest station there. I don't know if you guys heard today that, believe it or not, it's going to be a bit surreal, but James Forrest is presenting the trophy to Conor McGregor tomorrow.
I didn't see that, but yeah, that'll be a really sort of special moment to which we see very rarely nowadays. Players who have started at Celtic from a young age and come up and are two of the most successful players in the club's history. And with the way it's looking, they'll probably be the two most successful players for years to come. Because I know Callum McGregor's a few behind Forrest, but if they keep winning at the rate they have been, then they both creep up quite far ahead of the rest. And it's not every few years that these sort of players come along. These are once in a sort of century kind of players. So yeah, two legends of the club. Maybe that could be a sign of James Forrest sort of slowing down and maybe sort of taking more of a back seat. But then again, he had his testimonial a few years ago and he's still playing, so you never know. So yeah, that'll be a nice moment for Celtic and the fans.
I would feel that I think this team Wednesday night, even when we dig the show, and I'll probably say it again, maybe next season on a different wherever the show might be next season, is I always feel a bit sorry for James Forrest.
Yeah, I get where you were coming from the other night when you made that point about the fact that he's never had a song and I mean, you think of some of the players that have got songs. Yes, Celtic have had some great players, but you've got players coming in that have not been there very long. You think even Yang's got a song, and Yang has been a decent player at Celtic, but James Forrest has been there for 15 years, 16 years, longer than that in the youth setup, and he's been there pretty much all the time for Celtic. I know he's had his injury problems and he's not always been the most consistent player, but I think he's one of the only Celtic players to have 100 goals and 100 assists, which for the club, which is another achievement which not many people can say. I think there was only two other players, I think, maybe. So elite companies, and yeah, maybe he does deserve more recognition from the Celtic support.
Regan, you'll be going to the game tomorrow, hopefully with your sunglasses on, or else you'll not be able to see the game. What do you make of what do you make of the game tomorrow? Obviously, the last time St Mirren came to Glasgow, and the last game of the season, albeit Celtic won, was it 2-1, Ethan?
3-2. 3-2 it was.
Mirren were leading 2-1. Scored the winner. Lewis Palmer scored the winner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's he now? Yeah. Yeah. So, what are you expecting tomorrow? Obviously, Celtic got a bit of a setback today. Real attack. His season's over.
Yep, he's got a MCL injury, which will keep him out between 1 and 6 weeks, basically. It's a difficult one for me because I think Rio Hatate is a fantastic player. And I do actually feel bad because I feel like that Aberdeen performance will always last in a Celtic top. I don't know if you agree with him, but I just feel like he's got a bit of the Kyogo for the hashes about him. Whereas, like, he wants to leave in the summer. I just feel like that'll be his last game. But I want to ask you, Michael, a question. I think it was bad. I think it was potentially bad management from the manager because there was no need to bring him on 4-1 up with 20 minutes to go. There's no need to bring someone like that on the pitch. Maybe it's because I've been watching Spurs all season and Spurs players are dropping like flies and had 25 injuries. But I just feel as if there was no need for Brendan Rodgers to bring Rio Hatate on with 20 minutes to go, 4-1 up.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I think you always see it, even when the team's rotated, that the managers will bring their strongest players on eventually, just to keep the players that started fresh. And obviously, it's unlucky that Hatate's one of the players that would have probably definitely started that final, and he comes on and he's the one that gets that bad injury. So yeah, I think it could be his last game, because I think, like you said, he maybe does want to play in another league, like Kyogo did, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the summer. But yeah, if it's his last game for the season, then I think the Celtic fans will fear that maybe that was his last appearance in the hoops.
Yep.
I mean, it was a bad tackle. Yeah, sorry, Reagan.
I'm just going to ask you and Ethan, who do you guys think will be in? You think it'll be Bernardo? Think it'll be Luke McCowan? Who do you think will be in?
The current, if I had to predict now at the current moment, I would say Luke McCowan. I think he's just contributed more over the season. I think Bernardo's had some stellar performances. I think of the first derby at Celtic Park, I thought Paulo Bernardo was man of the match when he had to play in that game. But I just think at the current time, who's been playing better recently, and who's played more throughout the season, I would say Luke McCowan. But then again, Paulo Bernardo might start tomorrow's match and might be brilliant, and then Brendan Rodgers throws him in it. I think it's a difficult one to call.
That's interesting because take it back to last summer and we talk about the Euros. Everybody's begging Celtic to buy Bernardo. You take it back to last summer. Everybody's begging Celtic to buy Bernardo. At this stage last season, they were saying, right, Celtic need to go out there and they need to pay whatever's required. But now, a year later, you would say Bernardo is further down the pecking order.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I would agree with that. I think that he can, if he's got a run in the team, then maybe he can get to a higher level than Luke McCowan. But they've both had the same opportunities, and Luke McCowan, you could say, is taking them more so far this season. I would say he's had the better season, and I would say he probably deserves to start more. Whether Brendan Rodgers will go with that, I don't know, because players have seemed to perform for Celtic this season, and he's not chosen them. I'm thinking that Mike Nawrocki, who's lost his place consistently despite playing well in pretty much every game that he's been asked upon.
See, that's an interesting question, guys. I mean, the thing that Ethan said there about the fact about Nawrocki, what do you guys make of it? Because I think it's a little bit strange, if you ask me.
Yeah, I would agree. Someone that's playing really well in the games, you would think they would maybe get more of an opportunity. There must be something about his game that Brendan Rodgers obviously doesn't like, or maybe he's not training too well. You just don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a strange one. From looking at it from the fans' point of view and our point of view, you would see that he's played well, so maybe he deserves more of a chance.
See, going back to Bernardo, right? I know that he was definitely signed as well, but see if you knew last season that he didn't have, he's not going to have a lot of game time. I don't think he would get signed for Celtic.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think in terms of him, I think when he's speaking to his agent, he's speaking to Brendan Rodgers, he's thinking, right, well, Matt O'Reilly's leaves as well, because you forget about that. We were saying that Bernardo was going to be this kind of Matt O'Reilly replacement. It's never really worked out like that. But that's why I always say that Celtic need to have a lot of options, because sometimes things don't go as planned, as we've seen with the jaw injury. I mean, something could happen to. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, but something could happen to Dyson Maynard just before the Champions League qualifiers, and he's out for a year. Then what does Celtic do? They need to go and address the striker option, and they need to go and buy strikers.
Yeah,
I think that was always on the table, Ethan. Like enough,
Yeah, I think Celtic, although Bernardo's not played much this season, and Luke McCowan hasn't really broke into the starting 11 as like a player who's keeping Engels or Hatate or McGregor out of the team. I think they're both solid options that Celtic can call upon if need be. And yes, Bernardo especially has maybe not had the season that Celtic fans would have wanted since he signed, but I think he'll be fine. I think he'll probably kick on next season, especially if one of the other midfielders leave. But then again, if Rio Hatate, for example, does leave, then Celtic will sign a replacement. For how much money, you don't know, but it's difficult for Bernardo to break into a team where you've got Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, who's been.
I would even go as far to say, as far as depth goes, even Celtic need another two, because if you look at the depth that they have at the moment, they may have Bernardo and look at the moment everybody's fit, but look as well, people like Thiago Holm are still at the club. They need to be replaced. Then you've got people like Kwon who's still at the club. He'll be replaced. So you're looking at potentially four midfielders.
Yeah, I think if Hatate goes, I think they need another midfielder anyway. Just if that's everyone staying, I think, because there's no real natural player to come in for Callum McGregor and cover his minutes in the defensive midfield role. I know Engels was made out to be that six, but I think we've seen that he's evidently better in the sort of further forward position. And Paulo Bernardo's covered there a few times, but I think you want a real sort of defensive, that sort of the player that does the real nasty side of the game. I know Callum McGregor has that to his game, but I think you would associate Callum McGregor more with a sort of distributor, and he sets the pace of the game rather than someone who's going to come in with some crashing, some ugly tackles, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Obviously St Mirren's coming to Glasgow tomorrow. Reagan, another brilliant season under Stephen Robertson.
Yeah, it's been really good, Michael. It's been really good. I think what he's done is he's really recruited well, and obviously when he plays against all the big teams like Aberdeen, Celtic, and Rangers, they've had a really good record against them. You look at last week against Aberdeen. I watched a bit of that game, and I thought St Mirren really dominated the game. Aberdeen were really slow in the build-up, but St Mirren done really well. And even you look at St Mirren against the Highbuys as well. I mean, that game on Wednesday was a great game. I know you probably didn't see much of the game because Celtic game was on, but I managed to turn the TV over and see some of that game, and I thought St Mirren actually done pretty well. And I think as well is that I think everybody who plays for Stephen Robson knows what their job is. And the best person I can think about doing that is Steve Clark. And I don't know, I just think Stephen Robson will be very hard for St Mirren to keep a hold of for much longer.
Yeah, I agree. I think, no disrespect to St Mirren, I think Robbie would admit this, that Stephen Robinson's maybe too good a manager for St Mirren, and there's definitely a level to go up for him. And yeah, I think St Mirren will be lucky to keep hold of him, because just look at what he's done this season and the last few as well. He's been a brilliant manager for St Mirren.
Are you not surprised, Gleeson, that he wasn't in the running for the Hearts job?
Yeah, I was surprised. I know he was linked with the job, but they obviously went for Derek McInnes, where I think if I'm not an expert in sort of employing managers, but I certainly would have went for Stephen Robinson instead. But obviously Stephen Robinson's, he signed a new deal this season, and Derek McInnes, I think a lot of the Kilmarnock fans wanted him out, so going for Derek McInnes was probably an easier target, as well as maybe one that they liked better.
And obviously, I'll go back to that point Paul's making in a minute, Reagan, when they're saying about players for European football. But in terms of like St Mirren, just for a minute, they've kind of, I think I said last season, and I wasn't being tricky or anything to Robbie, but I think they kind of like, overachieved. Would you say that, Regan?
I think they did, and I think Stephen Robinson, that's why he's getting suited, because he's getting people looking at him. And I think it was the most recent one was club from down south as well. And I think that's a credit to him. I know for hearing him talk, the job he wants is the Northern Ireland job. So I think overall that'll be something he'll look at. But I think he's very happy in Scotland because he's been to St Mirren, he's been to Motherwell. I just don't know if he's happy here at the moment, but hopefully for Robbie's sake and for Scottish football, then he stays, because he's a very good manager and he's capable of recruiting and scouting some very good players.
Okay, Paul wanted to ask you guys as well, and Ethan, obviously, Celtic need players who can achieve something in Europe. I think everybody would agree from a Celtic point of view and from a Scottish football point of view as well. Winning domestic trebles with zero opposition means nothing.
Well, I tend to disagree with parts of Paul's point. I wouldn't say that winning domestic triples means nothing, because Michael's pretty old, and I'm sure when Michael went to school, he was getting slagged for how Celtic were getting on at that time. You know. But
What
I think,
school?
well, I know you're nearly 50, Michael. So no, I'm only joking. Aye. So basically, I know that it's taken for granted at the moment, but these days should never be taken for granted, even, because
No, I agree.
Celtic are doing really well, but things can change so quickly.
Yeah, Celtic and Brendan Rodgers have made winning trebles the norm. I don't think it should be the norm and should ever be made out to be the norm. Of course, Celtic should win most things in Scotland because they've got the best squad, the best manager, the best finances, but it doesn't always play out like that. Still takes a ridiculous mentality to do so, especially when you've got Rangers who have posed a threat to Celtic in the head-to-head games this season, and even pushed Celtic all the way in one of the cup finals. So I agree with Paul's point in the fact that Celtic will need players who can play at a European level, because that's how you ultimately propel yourself in the European stage. Celtic made a step forward, a stride forward this season in the Champions League, but they want to go further, and by doing that, you'll need to sign more players and better players. But yeah, I disagree. There's not zero opposition, but of course Celtic are major favourites going into.
And obviously as well, obviously Paul's saying there that Celtic need to improve, but then you can play the argument as well that for you being Aberdeen supporter, Paul, it's probably not a good thing Celtic improve, because then they get further and further ahead of teams like Aberdeen and Rangers or whatever. But I think Celtic's participation in Europe is very important to the club. But I think most importantly, guys, I don't know if you agree, but most importantly is to doing well in your home nation. You look at teams like Bayern Munich and PSG. I mean, look at the scenes at Bayern Munich last week. I mean, Bayern Munich were winning something like 13, 14 in a row, but not all of the fans enjoy the moment and they take it for granted, because like they seen last year against Bayer Leverkusen, it could be taken away.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I would agree that although it seems like Celtic are going to win everything and win most things, there will be a time where Celtic probably don't win anything, and you would imagine that's going to be mostly down to Rangers, because just the way Scottish football is, you would contribute that Rangers are going to be a lot more likely to dethrone Celtic than any other club. But there will be a stage where Celtic get to the point where they're losing regularly, and things get difficult for them. I don't think that's ridiculous to say. Although it seems like that now. You think of Manchester United, the sort of domination they went through under Sir Alex Ferguson. Look at where they are now. I mean, I don't expect Celtic, to be down outside the relegation zone. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Reagan, from a Celtic point of view, going along tomorrow, you'll be expecting to see Brendan Rodgers maybe starting 11 for the cup final, but because Atati's out now and obviously Jota's been out for a few weeks, do you think that Brendan Rodgers has a bit of fear in his mind going into the cup final, so that it'll change it'll kind of like change the team? Because obviously when you go into the Scottish Cup final the week before that, you'll see the kind of hints that he'll play tomorrow, but he'll not want to take any risks because of what's happened to Jota and Atati as well.
Michael, I'm glad to sound like Alan McCoy here, but I'm glad to say you made a great point there, because I think Brendan Rodgers will get a little bit of the fear, because I feel like I know people were talking about possibly getting Johnson back for his full 90 minutes, but I think it's more important that he plays next week. So I don't know what Brendan Rodgers might do. He might play Tony Nelson again tomorrow, because of course it's a record. They said that if Celtic score more than 3 goals, I think it is, Ethan, they will go ahead of Jock Stein's in terms of goals scored in a season.
I'll just check that for you.
Or possibly it's Martin O'Neill. But yeah, I heard something like that. Anyway, that's the goal that he's set the team in terms of. But it's in terms of the amount of goals we've scored at Celtic Park.
Reagan, I know that you're a big Scotland fan and go along to the games. Paul Donaldson says Robertson possibly is the next Scotland manager if Stevie Clarke steps down if we don't reach the World Cup.
Do you know, I think that's a brilliant shout, because he's well organised, he knows how to play, he knows what to do, and to be honest, Paul, I think that he would really suit international managers, because he knows how to set a team up. And if you look at international teams, I'm not saying it's kind of boring football, but they're kind of well structured. They know their jobs, and I think he'd be a really good appointment. Do you remember the SFA? They've got kind of a track record they appointing in Northern Irish managers, because they almost got close to appointing Michael O'Neill when he was at Northern Ireland as well. So, Paul, I think that's a great shout, to be honest with you. But I know, I don't know what you guys think, but a lot of people get kind of thinking, oh, we definitely need somebody that's Scottish or whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't know what you guys think. Do you think that that it should definitely be someone that's Scottish, or would you be open? Because I see the debate about down at England with Thomas Tuchel. People are complaining because he's not English and he's not singing the national anthem and stuff like that. But I mean, surely, let's see, a couple of years ago when Neil Lennon was at Hibs.
Well, you could say that about sorry, Reagan kicked it up, but you could say that about John Carver as well. He didn't sing the national anthem at the Scotland games. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I totally get what you mean. And John Carver's been a good coach. Apart from in the last camp, he said that Lennon Miller should be quiet, and I don't agree with him saying that. In terms of, I think Lennon Miller's a great prospect. I think he's done really well, and I think he's entitled to say that he thinks he can be one of the best players in Scotland. I don't think that's without question.
Ethan?
Yeah, I think Stephen Robinson would be a smart appointment for Scotland if Steve Clarke fails to take us to the World Cup. The only thing that I think would be in the way is if he has his heart set on Northern Ireland, and I think if he gets to the level where he can be the Scotland manager, then he's probably at the level where he can be the Northern Ireland manager, or maybe just waits out for that to come up. So yeah, I think it'll be difficult, but I'm not against any manager from any country as long as they get the best out of that Scotland team, which I don't think we have done in recent years. Then I'll be happy.
Right,
Michael, have you still got Bertie Folks fever? Are you alright?
But yeah, he's in my phone book. Get people still have phone books now? I don't know.
Remember the Yellow Pages? Are you too young for that, Ethan?
Oh yeah, I'm too young for that.
Remember that, Michael? I think I just caught that about late 90s when you were going through the Yellow Pages. See if you could see your pal. See if you could scroll through. And...
Yep. No, I can always remember you phone up the talking clock 1, 2, 3, and you would get the time. No, okay, maybe I've took that one a bit far. Maybe
I think that's through your age.
Maybe I've outdone Reagan as well. Talking about that, like just quickly, like I'll tell you guys after the show, right? But one of my pals, I've only got one pal, right, and she does a voiceover for ScotRail. But I found out yesterday that her job is no longer. They've gave it to AI. So AI is going to tell you.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so like AI is going to tell you, and next up is Glasgow Central. Yeah, so she was a bit annoyed about that actually.
So what you're saying is the voiceover industry is now
the voiceover AI, yeah. So
that's terrible.
Yeah, I know exactly. Before I get into trouble, let's move on. Before we move on to the other games this weekend, I want you guys' comments on this one from a Celtic point of view. And this always comes up actually. And Paul Donaldson says no one else in Scotland can compete with Celtic budget and Rangers to a lesser extent. The whole situation about distribution of TV money needs to be sorted out. But I know this is for, yeah, I know this is for a different show and all that, and we've got not a lot of time to talk about it. But yeah, Ethan, what about you? Obviously, you've heard this from maybe from a lot of fans of all the different clubs in Scotland. Where do you stand on that one?
Yeah, I think the TV money's quite terrible in this country. For the amount of support the Scottish people give our game, I don't think the product is really there to match. In terms of how much money is distributed about the league and how competitive the league is in a way outside of the top two. I think it is competitive. But in terms of the fact that Celtic and Rangers, it's going to be very rare to see for the foreseeable future. You would imagine it's going to be very rare to see anyone but them be the top two teams.
Ethan, sorry. I think as well, though, it's great to see investment into Hearts and obviously what Dave Cormack's doing at Aberdeen. And obviously there's a Bournemouth guy. What's his name again?
Tony Bloom.
Tony Bloom's a half. What was the guy at Hibs? I know his name again.
Oh, the American guy? No.
American guy. Anyway, so I think in terms of what these clubs are trying to do, it's great. But I think I do agree with what Paul said. But honestly, there's nothing more that I'd love to see as a competitive Scottish league where Aberdeen and Hibs are competing with Celtic, because of course it is great to win, but it's also good for a bit of difference as well. I mean, I know that I'm a Celtic supporter, but I think like what they did with the Leicester thing years ago with the Premier League when Leicester won it. I think it'd be great one year if I say a Hibs or Aberdeen won it.
Yeah.
It would just be fascinating for the league.
Yeah, and I think you look at I know it's the sort of, I know we hate to compare ourselves to it, but I think the English Premier League, they obviously get the luxurious money that we desire, and we're not expecting anywhere close to what they get, because they're obviously a much bigger country and a much bigger league in that sense. But I mean, the competitiveness in their league is that on any given day, pretty much top can lose to bottom and stuff like that. I know this season it's not really been like that, but you got Man United and Spurs down just outside the relegation zone, and that's just something that would never really happen here. And I know it never will. It never will, because Celtic and Rangers are obviously the two biggest clubs by quite a distance. But you would love to see that gap sort of shrunk between likes of your Aberdeens, your Hearts, your Hibs, so that maybe there is a time where there is maybe a Hibs or a Hearts or an Aberdeen going for the league.
I know Michael loves a good moan about Sky and TNT or whatever.
Oh yeah, don't get me started.
But I mean, was it see in terms of like the TV deals? Do you guys think that possibly a SPFL channel would be a good option? Because I see people in the French league are doing that at the moment because they're saying they're not getting good value from BN Sports. Surely we could say we're not getting good value from Sky and set up our own television channel.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward, and for all leagues. And I'm surprised it's not been something that's been more introduced, because in my opinion, depending on the price, it works for the fan. You pay for, if you want to watch any Scottish football match, you pay for the membership and you watch them. If you want to watch any, say, English Premier League game or League One game,
It's a like during lockdown, Ethan, when if you want to go into Celtic Parks, because Celtic had was it the Celtic Pass?
Yeah, the Celtic Pass.
Yeah.
And it's things they've got in American sports are way ahead. They've got this where for basketball and American football you pay £100 a year, which is a lot cheaper than what Sky and TNT will probably charge you over a year, and you get to watch every game. And they still have some games on the TV channels, but you can watch every single match on your pass. And for a Scottish league, we all feel that, and I think it's pretty evident that we're disrespected by the TV corporations like Sky, then we can have our own pass where we can support it. And yeah, okay, Sky can have the occasional game, but we can watch any game, and we could probably make a lot more money for a league. But it's just whether that'll be introduced in the years.
And I think as well because it's not when Michael was growing up with those black and white tellies and all that. The world's it's become a more multi-platform kind of world now. You can get football matches on your iPad, on your TV or wherever you choose to watch it. And I think, like, see the argument that if let's just say if Aberdeen versus Dundee United this weekend is on Aberdeen TV, then no one would show up. I just find that argument flawed because a lot of people, they definitely will. A lot of people would still show up, right? But then the club themselves are making money from the tickets. Plus, they're also making money through subscriptions. So it works both ways. They're still getting that income. And see, in general, right? See, I was a match going fan to St Johnson, right? But I bought my season ticket for the year. But my transport's not working. So then that means I can just somehow manage to watch the match. And if you look at St Johnstone fans at the moment, if their transport's not working, then they're not able to see the match at all. I just think sometimes we need to understand the type of world that we're staying in right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think if people, I'd say for the 90%, even more than that, if people were going to go to the game, then they wouldn't be swayed by it being on telly. I think. I know there's definitely football fans out there that are your weather fans or whatever you want to call them, where if it's a rainy day, then they maybe don't go to the game.
That's shocking, Ethan.
No, that's not me. That's not me. But I know there is people out
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I think if you have a place where there's one place where you can find all of Scottish Premiership football, everyone buys into it, then the clubs will make more money in the long run, even if you get fans not going to a game here and there. Because the TV deal we've got at the moment, surely you can't get any worse than that for the value of our league.
I think that's a great point you make. I just want to add one more thing, right? So surely that would make sense then, because for me, that's like saying, well, we're not able to put the boxing on TNT because if we put the boxing on, nobody will turn up. People don't turn up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Right, let's move on to the rest of the games tomorrow. That's the top six. All half 12 kickoffs at Celtic St Mirren, as we spoke about there. A cracking game up at Tannadice. Dundee United against Aberdeen, and Barry Ferguson could it be his last game in charge? Well, we'll find out on maybe Sunday on next week. It's Hibs against Rangers. And then on Sunday, we've got the bottom six games. We have got Kilmarnock against Hearts, Ross County against Motherwell, and Relegate King St Johnstone against Dundee. Ethan, what do you make of the I would obviously it's the game of the day. Celtic's going to win lift the league title, but I think this is the game of the day as well. Up at Tannadice, Dundee United and Aberdeen, and going back to what we were saying earlier on as well about Paul Donaldson's comments about a TV deal. This game should have been on TV.
Yeah, definitely. Because if Dundee United somehow dragged themselves to win, which they've suffered, obviously, straight defeats and the split, 4 straight defeats. Aberdeen have been on a bit of a rocky form, and maybe they've had the stuffing knocked out of them slightly after the midweek result. And it's a really interesting one because Dundee United can win that and move up a European place, which maybe doesn't mean a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it means you get probably a better qualifier and you get a bit closer to qualifying for the not group stage football, league phase football as it is now. So that's a massive game between the two teams, and then obviously Dundee United looking for anything to, just in case St Mirren do pull off a result at Celtic Park.
Regan?
Yeah, so talk me through it then. So St Mirren, if they win, so do they need to finish the top 5 or the top 4?
Top 5. It would be top 4, but the 5th place is decided by the winner of the Scottish Cup, which will be Celtic and Aberdeen, who are guaranteed the places anyway. So top 5 will be good enough. So St Mirren just need better Dundee United's result on the day, which will be very difficult, obviously, but they believe they can do
it. It's going to be obviously. Well, I was going to say, Ethan, this game makes it even better because since they've actually been in the top 6, the two teams, the split, they haven't had a good record, especially Aberdeen on Wednesday night getting beat off for Celtic. But before that as well, when Dundee United's been the same.
Yeah, and both of them, I think Aberdeen, they'll expect to do enough. They just need to avoid losing. If Dundee United win, then they obviously secure Europe and overtake Aberdeen. And then if Dundee United don't get anything, St Mirren even sneak a point at a Celtic Park, then St Mirren will take United's spot off them. So it's they three teams, and the fact that two of them are playing each other is a big game. Because I don't know. Sorry,
I was just thinking there, like, see what Dave was saying there, right, guys? I mean, look at what Aberdeen. I mean, I didn't realise even that if Dundee United won, then they would go ahead to Aberdeen. So if you imagine, right, that Jimmy Tilton finishes fifth in the league and he gets beaten in the cup final, you've got to ask serious questions because Aberdeen were way ahead of Hearts. They were way ahead of Hibs and way ahead of Dundee United, and for them to finish fifth, you've got to raise questions at the manager.
Yeah, what is that for Dundee United? You're saying?
No, for Aberdeen.
For Aberdeen, yeah.
I'm saying that Aberdeen for the first 12 games were top of the league and doing really well, and for them to finish fifth and potential lose a cup final, more than likely, it would be the question they go to the manager for next season.
Yeah, and definitely, because I know it's an improvement. An improvement on last season, but still not ideal. Aberdeen will be wanting to strive for that third place, and obviously they've not got it this season because Hibs went on that remarkable run. But I get Paul's point about he'd rather finish fifth and win the Scottish Cup, because if they were to win the Scottish Cup, but I think we're accepting is quite unlikely against Celtic, then they would go into the playoff round of the Europa League, I believe, which means they're guaranteed European football. Whereas if they finish fourth and finish fifth, then I'm trying to work out what it means for Europe. But I'd imagine finishing fourth will get you a better qualifying round in Europe than finishing fifth will be. So that's the difference.
And that's for Dundee United. Albeit they've come off the rails the last couple of weeks, Reagan, but I mean, they Robbie wouldn't like me for saying this, but I think what I was saying to you guys was the player of the year for my point of view was kind of like straightforward, but from a manager's point of view, it was very difficult this season, and I think like you could put a few managers in there, and I'm going to throw Jim Goodwin's name in there only because they come up from the Championship last season, and everybody writes the team off, no matter who it is coming up to the Premiership, and they've made the top six in this first season.
Yeah, he's done really well, and I think Jim Goodwin, for me, is potentially in for a good shooting manager of the year, because that wasn't expected, and if he gets European football as well, that'd be great. But I mean, they've had some notable results. They've drawn with Celtic, drawn with Rangers, beat Aberdeen, beat Hibs. So there was a lot of good performances in there, didn't there? So I think Jim's done a great job so far.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think even if Dundee United do drop out, I think there might be some harsh criticism heading Goodwin's way, because they've sat in the European spots the whole season, so it'll be really difficult. But even still, sixth, and it would be a really impressive finish coming up from the Championship.
See Aberdeen guys, obviously Paul Donaldson's watching the show, but I would like to get especially your take on this evening, because I know that me and Reagan spoke about this a few times, right? But when Stephen Glass got the job, and then Scott Brown, and then
have I been here that long, Stephen Glass?
Yeah,
that was a while ago.
And Neil, I can't remember the guy's name. Help me out here, guys. He came up as a kind of busman's holiday. Neil.
Neil Warnock.
Neil Warnock, yeah.
Neil Warnock, aye.
And stuff. And obviously, he got the 2 appointments wrong. Now, I'm not saying he got the Jimmy Tardine appointment wrong, but he started the season off well, and then he's hit a bit of a brick wall, and he's turned it round a wee bit as well. But I mean, if he doesn't win the Scottish Cup, do you think the knife will be out for him, but also Dave Cormack as well?
I wouldn't say the knife player, but I would say that it would be really disappointing. I think especially even because they started so well.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there'll be there'll be certain fans that will call for his head, but I think the general idea will be that yes, the season's not been what it maybe should have been when they started the season. I'm not saying they should have went on to win the league, but to finish fifth in a trophy season from, as you said, Regan, they were going head to head with Celtic right at the start of the season. So yeah, I think fourth in a Scottish Cup final and a League Cup semi-final would maybe be seen as an okay season, definitely an improvement in Jimmy Tilline's first season. I think fifth, and depending on how the final goes, if they lose heavily or whatever, then yeah, there could definitely be some Jimmy Tilline critics and Aberdeen support.
Do you think as well, before the cup final, guys, Aberdeen will have nightmares, not only because Celtic went up there last weekend and beat them in the end, but also that was where Celtic beat them in the League Cup semi-final as well, Regan, back in, what was it, November time?
Yeah, I think you're right there, because it wasn't just like a 1-0, it was 6-0. It's not as if the Aberdeen put a great fight up. It was a close match, 3-2, penalty kicks. It was 6-0. So I think Aberdeen have got the feet of Celtic, to be honest with you. And that's why, as I said the other night, I think the only way that Celtic don't win the final is if they get a player sent off. I just feel like Celtic will. No, of course there'll be stages in the match where Aberdeen will do well, but I just feel like if Celtic play well and they create chances like the Brendan Rodgers teams tend to do, then I can only see one team winning.
Yeah. I was just going to say I've managed to find the difference between fourth and fifth place in a European sense. So the team in third place will enter at Europa League qualifying round 2. That is only if Aberdeen win the Scottish Cup. So assuming Celtic win the Scottish Cup, Hibs will enter at the Europa League playoff stage, which means even if they lose that, they'll go automatically into the Europa Conference League, like Hearts done this season. Fourth place will be propelled to Europa League qualifying round 2, and fifth place will be Conference League qualifying round 2. So the difference is that you either get Europa League football and qualifying or Conference League qualifying. So you want to be in fourth place because it means you get 2 chances. Because obviously, if you drop down from Europa qualifying, then you go into Conference League qualifying. So that's the difference between the Aberdeen and Dundee United match. Aberdeen obviously have the massive advantage, but if Dundee United can win it at Tannadice, then they can knock Aberdeen off and possibly make them have a terrible end to the season.
And I think that atmosphere is going to be brilliant tomorrow, Regan, because we know how big Aberdeen takes its travel and support, but Dundee United will have a massive home support as well.
I think it will be as well because it's got to be extra spice to it.
It's the cup final, Regan.
It's got to be salt and pepper chili edge to it. I mean, so I think in terms of what Dundee United are trying to do, I mean, if you'd have said to them about a year ago, Michael, that they would be in a position where they would be 3 points away from Aberdeen with a home match and Dundee in their home, I think they would have potentially took that for a European spot.
Okay, sorry, Ethan.
No, I was just agreeing with Reagan's point.
Yeah. At least somebody does, Ethan. That's good. Because I didn't. I'm on a season my goodwill and all that. Let's move on to the last game in the top 6 tomorrow, and it's Hibs against Rangers. At East Road, Reagan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game tomorrow. I mean, I think Hibs are a cracking watch. And I think in terms of Rangers, I think Rangers are actually doing okay. I don't know if you guys spoke about it, but there's reports from Spain that
Yeah.
David Ancelotti has knocked back the chance to become a number one manager. He wants to follow his dad
Yeah.
over
You
to,
want to
over,
Brazil?
over to Brazil. So
Can't
that
blame him.
potentially.
Can't
Say that
blame him.
again.
I mean, that's the Brazil job at the end of our Brazil management team at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, you don't get much better than that. I know they haven't been great recently, but if he was debating on whether he was gonna take the chance at Rangers, then he probably wasn't the right man for the job anyway.
Yeah,
So
because
back to square one.
I agree with you, Ethan, because I don't think he's ready. Because I
Yeah,
think that he he needs a job where I'm not saying the consequences are not that bad, but if see he loses the first three of his games, Celtic give him 9 points clear already.
yeah.
You know, and that for me would be um it would be far too much for Rangers to turn around. Especially, well, if you take it that, let's just say that David Ancelotti lost three of his first four matches in charge, and Celtic won all the games, but he drew the fourth game. I mean, there would be absolute uproar. Shows like this would be, and it wouldn't be five until seven. It would be five until midnight. You know, like, because people would be enraged and whatever else. I just think the job is far too big for him. You know, like what he should maybe go to like a Swansea or a Coventry where in that championship you've still got managers that lose 20 games a season and they're loaded like Frank Lampard.
I don't know about you, Ethan and Reagan here, and anybody can come in as well. But I don't know about you, but okay, he's knocked back the job. I don't know if it was absolute. I don't know if it was a real story or a fantasy story, whatever. But I just feel as though that maybe not. But I just feel as though Rangers has missed. Are going to miss the boat again in terms of the need a manager at the end of the Hibs game on Sunday. Because if they leave it any longer, before you know it, the Champions League game they're going to be on. And I've always said this to you guys, the 49ers or 59ers or 52ers come into Glasgow the other week. And there was a big day up at Ibrox. But the worrying sign, if you were a Rangers fan point of view, is they've actually not come in and said they've actually not written on the dotted line, so it's not a done deal yet, Ethan.
No, it's not. It's looking like it will be, but you just don't know. Stranger things have happened. But yeah, they do need to start getting a move on. Maybe they have a line of candidates and they're just going through them. But yeah, they can't leave it much longer because I think we would admit here that starting a pre-season with a new manager, is that Rangers team going to be good enough to get out of a few rounds of Champions League qualifying? I'm not too sure.
What is it, 2 rounds even or
I
1?
think it might even be 3.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. I'll just
Yeah,
look right
qualifying
now.
round two.
Qualifying round 2. So yeah, that's 3 rounds. So yeah, that's
Wow.
a lot to do to get there. Let me just see if I can
Because
see
I
them.
think it was because Bilbao got beat by Man U. So because Bilbao got beat by Man U,
Oh,
Rangers-
actually, it does say here. This might not be 100% reliable, but it does say third qualifying round, so that would be two ties. And the type of teams they can play are at the moment are your sort of fourth in Ligue 1, second in the Portuguese league, second in the Belgian league, second in the Turkish league. So I mean, they're all difficult teams, you would imagine. What do you
I
think?
suppose the benefit this year, Michael, is that Rangers have got their stands open for qualifying. No, I'm not going to defend Fleet Clermont here, but I think to play your qualifying games at Hampden was a bit of a shambolic situation.
Yeah, no, I would say yeah. Because you need that home support even in the Champions League. I know it sounds like a wee minor thing, but like to a team, to a Rangers team, and maybe to supporters, it means a lot.
Yeah, that debacle with the stadium was just something that Rangers didn't need to start the season. I think they should have beat Dynamo Kiev. They obviously lost after a positive result in Poland. I think the game was played. They obviously lost at Hampden when Jeffy was shown that red card. It was probably never a red card. But yeah, I think they look back on that as a real regret that they didn't have the stadium in place and they lost a team which I think they finished bottom of the Europa League league table, which shows that they were a team that Rangers should probably have beaten. And they'll need to up the levels because I think the level of opponent will possibly only get more difficult this season. So it'll be difficult for them, and they'll need to bring in a new manager and some new players to strengthen that squad as well.
And I think as well, even just to add on to your point, I mean, from what I was looking at, they were telling you on Sky and other places the other day that Rangers are back in training. So the end of the season is tomorrow. Rangers are back in training and at the end of June.
4
Yeah.
weeks.
So it's like 4 weeks off, and then they're right back at it again.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the footballers don't get much time off, and yeah, they'll need to be back probably earlier than anyone else because they have the qualifying rounds. Oh, well, actually, there'll be the teams that finish in the European spots below them obviously enter the qualifiers earlier, so they might come back before them.
But I think as well, big question marks over Cherney as well. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I just caught a glimpse of what he was doing in Rangers TV the other night, and he did look a bit emotional going off the park. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I know this 49ers or 52ers or whatever you call them. They're actually I don't know how much they're planning to spend. So it'll be interesting to see how much they spend because I don't know if you guys know, but they didn't really give Daniel Farker that much back in last summer, and he still managed to get up to the Premier League. But I think they desperately need someone that knows the Scottish leagues because if they get someone in that has no clue what is doing and there's no identity, because you know the thing that I hate in football, see when people go like that, every player gets a fresh slate clean. No, I'm sorry, Robbie, right? But if the new Rangers manager wants to give a slate clean to Jeffy, Proper, Jack Butland, Yilmaz, people like that who have let the two previous managers down, then surely they're not going to learn the lessons because for me, I think people like Proper are on borrowed time at Rangers. I mean, I think it's actually crazy if a manager if he goes into Rangers and says, "I'm going to give Proper another year," because for me, Rangers need something else. You know, it's not a case of I'm a manager can change whoever. I've watched Proper enough up against physical teams like Hibs, Hearts, St Mirren, and he's been bullied about all the time. And as much as I don't think Barry will be the manager, I do think it is important that the manager does know how difficult it is to go to St Mirren, how difficult it is to go to Hibs, because these are places, for example, St Mirren's a place that Rangers have played 3 games this season and won 0.
Yeah.
St
Yeah.
Mirren, St Mirren have won 2. St Mirren have won 2 matches against Rangers, and the other one was a draw.
Yeah. I think Rangers are. This is a desperate time for them. They need to get the right manager in. They need to get the right players in. Because I just looked and it's the start of August. Their third qualifying round will be. So that's just over 10 weeks' time. They've got to get a new manager in, get new players in, get the squad turned around and fit for the new season. So
So they'll not be going off on holiday like me, even though.
No, I don't think they'll be having a holiday like you. I think they'll have a summer to probably reflect for the players that are there on what they've said. Multiple of them have said it's a poor season, and that they want to do better, and that they'll need to put the work in pre-season. And the manager they'll need to get right, because I don't think anyone has any clue as to who the manager is going to be yet, which it would be the worrying sign for
And
Rangers.
Michael, what day are we back on for pre-season this year? We getting a few weeks holiday. We're straight back into it.
We're back in November, mate. Yeah. But from a Hibs point of view, Reagan, I mean, I'm going to make another case for the manager of the year for David Gray, and I mean, we were the first ones to stay in the show, even at the beginning of the season. Okay, if Ethan wasn't here, but we'll take the blame about David Gray to be sacked. But what do we know? That he turned it around.
That was you and Graham. It was saying that.
Okay, blame Graham because he's a Heart fan, but yeah. Reagan, I mean, brilliant season.
They've been really good. Hibs. I mean, like you said, though, David Gray would have been potentially sacked if it wasn't for the board sticking by him. Only if they'd listened to us, eh?
Yeah.
Even just because I understand, Reagan a few years ago said David Martindale should be sacked as the Livingston manager when they were in the premiership.
I said that about 4 years ago, and he's still there.
Yeah. So there you go. So Reagan's got a brilliant track record, Giffen.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, not on this podcast because I wasn't on it yet, but another podcast I said David Gray should have been sacked as well, so not much better than any of you.
Okay,
but he's done a brilliant job to turn it around, and I think he really was one more poor result away, maybe one more defeat away if they hadn't got that point against Aberdeen and that 3-each draw.
Yeah, big game.
It really was that close to maybe getting the sack. And look what's happened. They've kept faith in him through the tough times, and he's really turned it around and gave them a great season. And now they can relax on the last day in the sun, and they'll be hoping to get another positive result against Rangers because they've got a win. The last game against Rangers was a win. Ibrox in that 2-0 game, and then the game before that was the 3-each game at Easter Road.
Yeah, what game that was, eh?
Yeah, that was one of the games of the season. So, yeah, they'll just be enjoying the last day and enjoying, what we think will be automatic European football unless Aberdeen pull off a massive surprise in the Scottish Cup final.
I was expecting Michael to burst into a David Gray song there. Babylon.
Yeah, no, Babylon. But one hospital food. I know it's exactly before Reagan, and you get recognised that song. But yeah. I'm not a big David Gray fan, but Hibs talking about David Gray and Hibs did well this season, and I think it's I saw an interview on Hibs TV today, and Dwight Gale, it's his last professional game tomorrow. Albeit he's only been at Hibs rigging for a season, but he's been about 5 years in England.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, some people could say it's how what Scottish football does to you. It retires you, but no, I mean he's been a great striker for many, many years, like you said. Down in England obviously made the headlines this year in Scotland by saying what he said about one is managers of the past, but he's a guy that's played for a number of good clubs like Newcastle, Crystal Palace, who are in the FA Cup final tomorrow. So I mean, he's played at a very good level, and I think he's done pretty well the second half of the season. I think first half of the season he wasn't involved, but I think as well you need to say that was a masterstroke as well because David Gray was under a lot of pressure in January, and to bring in somebody with the experience of the way go, it's so important when you're going through a bad time.
Okay, let's move it on to that's the top 6 games of the season. So I don't know about you guys, but when I do this, when we do a fight, the final.
I was just going to ask you, Michael, what is this the last show of the season in terms of Premiership? Because I was actually going to get your boys' prediction. Who you think will be the Rangers manager? Who do you guys think it'll be?
I don't even know. I think it'll be someone completely left field that hasn't even been mentioned yet. That's my prediction. So left field that's not been mentioned in any rumours yet. That's my prediction.
About that ruled out.
I'm saying Steven Gerrard.
Oh
wow. Okay. There you go.
Michael, what you saying? We journalism contact.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet in a grapevine, but yeah, it's a difficult one to call that because I mean I think the club's a bit back to front because obviously they've got a director of football in. They haven't got anybody in to own the football club yet. The takeover, so it just seems kind of like all over the place to me at the moment.
You're not going to say a name, Michael. Come on, As Roger Hanna would say, put your head above the parapet.
You should know be my By Now. By the way, that was a brilliant song back in the day. If you don't know my By Now, but no, yes, Sean Dykes, his name still doesn't go away. But I'm just throwing that in there because I saw it today online somewhere. But I do not know. But yeah, what's his space? So let's go into the bottom 6, guys. Bottom 6 Sunday. I'm going to call this one.
There you go. You just done more than the SPFL's branding.
Yeah. Super Sunday, bottom 6. Yeah, some headline that one, eh? It is Kilmarnock against Hearts. Won't he? No, he won't be like Derek McInnes. He'll be hiding behind the couch somewhere. Ross County against Motherwell and Johnson against Dundee. What do you make of the situation at Tynecastle, Ethan? Because it was Wednesday night. Rumours were like Derek McInnes got the job. He'll be in the dugout on Sunday. And then yesterday, he's not in the dugout. He might be on the beach somewhere. I'm not sure. But what gave me? I mean, I think the timing was all wrong for this to come out.
Yeah.
The best game would be at the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is one where you get player pre-contracts, but this is almost as in it's a manager pre-contract, and I don't think you can really say professionally you're going to manage a football club when there's another football club in the league that you'll be joining as the manager.
Yeah, that's true.
Not having to go up against that team. So I think it's something that probably should have been kept under the wraps. The fact that it hasn't been has obviously caused a lot of frustration between amongst the Kilmarnock supporters, quite rightfully so. You obviously heard the chants they were singing for part the other night about the Hearts and how they're going.
I didn't hear the chants.
I can't remember exactly, but it was something about Hearts not doing very well. Hearts are falling apart again, or something. The chant was from the Kilmarnock fans, obviously aimed at Derek McInnes. So at that stage, I think everyone knew that he would be on his way, or he might even have admitted it by then. He was on his way to Tynecastle.
I think it was the worst. I think it was the worst kept secret ever.
Yeah, it was. And then he's obviously going to have.
To be honest with you, I can a little bit put a little bit of blame on Derek McInnes because I don't think he helped himself.
Yeah.
I don't think he helped himself, Michael. You know, that's probably another one that's banned from the show after Kenny Miller and a few others that I've called out this season. But I mean,
I get to the last bit.
Apparently blame Derek McInnes a little bit, even just because you know the heat of the situation, and to go on a program like Sky Sports Football when you know the situation is bubbling up, I just felt the time was all wrong.
Yeah,
I thought that was a bit weird, even because I was surprised to see not to see Chris Sutton-Nitsky's best pal Chris Boyd, but instead of that, Derek McInnes.
Yeah, I know. I think if Derek McInnes had agreed with Hearts, or he had any knowledge that he would be going to Hearts, he would sort of bury his head in the sand and avoid those sort of questions at all costs. But he was quite happy to go on to Sky Sports and be questioned, which he would have known was coming when he went on for that Rangers Aberdeen game. So yeah, I think he handled it very poorly. And I
would even say that probably Ailey Barber and Chris Boyd probably knew that the deal was happening, because I'm sure when they go off camera, they go off set and they're talking.
Yeah.
The first question they're going to ask is, "Are you going there?"
They would have been told by the editor, ask them that what will you do? Make sure the first question is, are you going to Hearts? It doesn't matter what way you dress it up, Ronald. You get that first question then, and then set the tone for the whole entire program.
Yeah,
and I do understand, right? I do understand that probably these bookings for Sky. I know that Ethan's a busy guy, meaning to book him in long in advance and that.
I know.
Same with you, Michael, because you've got a busy schedule. You know, your schedule's about as long as the Clyde.
Maybe not.
But I mean,
people want to take me, yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the schedule for a Sky pundit is probably planned a few weeks in advance, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right, Regan. Because I think if Derek McInnes wasn't going for the Hearts job, and I think it would be, and I think if he was still at Kilmarnock, I don't think you would saw on Sky on Sunday. I just don't think.
So what you're preempting is you think he's got on there for the limelight?
He went on there for the money, as well. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But we're live. But also as well that he kind of knew that he was going to Hearts, and that was his last job.
You could have said to Sky, "Look, I want to keep a low profile or whatever. I want to stay quiet."
He could have said that, but he never.
Yeah. that's why you can accuse him, and the Kilmarnock fans certainly have, of going about it the wrong way, and that's why he's had to obviously leave Kilmarnock before the last game, and he's not going to get that nice send off that he probably would have wanted. Because I
don't think he would get a nice send off anyway.
No, I know now he wouldn't have got a nice send off, but maybe if he sort of, I don't know, maybe he could have done it in a different way that made it more pleasant for the Kilmarnock fans to hear, but I don't know.
But in a little bit of Derek McKinnon's defence, he's got a lot of pals in the media. I know a few guys from newspapers know Derek McKinnon as well, so maybe he's told them and they've broke it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a bit of a shame, but I suppose if
I think he shot himself in the foot, Reagan. I think you're right in saying that. Because as soon as he went on the TV set on Sunday, in fact, when they got that phone call maybe on Friday or whatever, if I was getting at McKinnon's, I would say, nope, I'm not going on anything until, minutes move or, whatever. So yeah. I think it was just asking for trouble, but that's just my opinion, guys.
No, I agree. And I think it's one that splits debate between the Kilmarnock fans and has done the fact he is on Sky and TNT to cover Rangers games, and he has been on in the past because they think that, well, some of them definitely think that that's not what he should be doing, and it doesn't help when he's addressing and he's been linked with a move to another team in the league. So yeah, I don't think there was ever going to be a nice send-off on the last day when it was pretty much confirmed that he was going to Hearts. The Dale Classico, as it was called by Barry Anderson, I seen. So yeah, he could never be in the dugout for that match, and I think Kilmarnock fans were saying that he was out. He kind of seemed out of it for part of the other night with some of his substitutes, and they obviously lost that match 3-0. So it'll be, I believe, who is it that's in the dugout? I think Chris Buck's certainly in the dugout.
Chris Buck and Craig Clark.
Yeah, that's the ones. So they're obviously coming up from the younger team to take control of that last match until Kilmarnock get a new manager.
And to be honest with you, Ethan, I think Chris Buck might be in a very good show getting the job.
Yeah, definitely, because he's obviously done well with the youth team because they won the under-19s.
Yep, and his boy he scored in the final.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely in with definitely in my shout, and he can show what he can do against Liam Fox. So, well, he's obviously not going to be the Hearts manager because it'll be Derek McInnes, but he can maybe put himself in the shop window a little bit for other jobs, maybe further down the leagues, because he's done pretty well since he's been called upon by Hearts.
Yep. So so that's the game tomorrow, and as for Hearts, Reagan, it's been a difficult season because not even I'm not talking about Neil Critz is losing his job, but I mean there's a chance he go to the final, the Scottish Cup final, and then fail to make the top 6 again.
Yeah, I did say, Michael, that when we done the reaction show, when we had a lot of people on the show, and they were saying that Neil Chrisley, he potentially could stay here to get Hearts in top 6. And I just felt like, for me, he'd run his course after the Scottish semi-final, because he's one of these managers that the Hearts fans didn't really appreciate at the time of the appointment as well. And I think when supporters don't really buy into it from the start, you need to do impressive things. And from not to get top 6, I've got a little list here. He didn't get top 6. Then he's not big. He's the Edinburgh rivals in Hibs. He's not managed to beat them so far as time as Hearts manager, and then he lost the semi-final. So and I would say for a Hearts fan, they're the three big objectives for every season you go into. To get Hearts in the top six is so important. And to be honest with you, I think he failed. But I think it also comes down to the Hearts board as well, because they need to take a lot of responsibility. I mean, Anne Budge, she seems to like escape a lot of criticism because you've got more senior people on the board now, but she's made some catastrophic errors over the past 5 to 10 years. I mean, think about when Craig Levine was the director of football, Andy was the manager. I mean, what is she thinking there? How can the guy that employed himself become the manager? And then what happens when he gets sacked? They go, oh, no, we can't actually sack you. We can just put you back upstairs again.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, there's been so many errors at the club, and I do appreciate, right, that Robbie Nielsen got so close, but the Hearts fans didn't appreciate him. So I think it was so important for Hearts to get back to a Scottish voice. Don't you guys agree?
I actually think, Reagan, that they sacked Nielsen too early.
I think they did because I know it was during COVID, but he took Hearts to a penalty shootout against Celtic, and
Yeah.
While being in the Championship.
Yep.
Aye. And it was quite funny in that shootout because you could hear everything because of it was COVID and there was no fans there, and you could hear Naismith celebrating, and when he stood up to take a penalty, and then you could hear Conor Hazard saving a penalty, then you could hear everything in the stadium. So I think he was so close, Robbie, and I think that for me just shows you how close football is. You can even look at Wednesday night. Man United and Spurs, they two have had one of the worst seasons ever, and one of the two are going to come out with a European trophy. So it just shows you the fine margins in football. I mean, you look at Hibs. See when they won the Scottish trophy, that was when they were at one of the lowest ebbs in the history. They were in the Championship, and it was two Championship clubs that were in the Scottish final that year. Obviously, Rangers played as well, and obviously it managed to be 3-2 at the end. But I mean, if you look at the overall picture, I mean, from year to year, the situation never changes. But I just think sometimes some managers get treated a bit wrongly than others. I mean, what actually reinstates Neil Chrisley to get the job in the first place? You know, I heard people talk about Jamestown analytics. I mean, that's all great, but the computer says no, and the computer says no to him because, like, it was just never ever going to be a Hearts manager. Never in a month for Sundays, as people would say.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the last game of the second last game of the bottom game that the sun's gone to my head now. It is Ross County against Murrow, and even when you look at this game as well, Murrow hasn't got a brilliant track record after Ross County.
No, and yeah, maybe that is something that will come into this game. Reagan puts on the sunglasses back on. But yeah, I think for Motherwell, the post split has been mostly not really meaning much because they obviously all but secured safety in the first game. For Ross County though, they're going to need to win this match and hope that Dundee are beaten by St Johnstone, which I think will be quite unlikely. I think we'll see Ross County in the relegation playoff for the third year running. Whether they'll be able to come out the other side of it on a positive note this time, we'll soon see. But I believe Ross County won't have enough. I think Dundee will do enough in the last game at Dermot Park. So I think it'll be Ross County that finish second bottom.
Rigging, just a quick word on this game before we move on. Ross County again tomorrow.
Well, first of all, I want to apologise to Ulster because to get relegated on a decision like that, I love Ross County. You know, Michael, 3 years ago I was on this show and I was talking about Regan Charles Cook. I was a big fan of him because he's got the same name as me, but I mean, for that decision to go for Ross County, I mean, what do you guys make it? I don't know if we spoke about it earlier, but I mean, that was a diabolical decision for Ross County.
Yeah, it was. It's a really harsh way for St Johnstone to be relegated. But Ross County, they'll take it because what was it, 7 defeats on the bounce before that, looking like 8. And then you would have had St Johnstone having a home game on the last day where you never know, they might win, and Ross County lose to Motherwell, who have been on decent form in the split. So yeah, it's a massive let off for Ross County. Heartbreak for St Johnstone. But I think Ross County might join them, to be honest, because I think Livingston are looking really strong this season.
Okay, let's move on to the last game of the season. Actually, it is St Johnstone against Dundee, and I think that a lot of people, and by the way, I'm eating humble pie again because I was the only one that said on the show.
Your diet because you've been eating all season.
For the past 2 seasons, I think. About St Johnstone, I thought St Johnstone was going to make it. Even I thought they were going to stay up, but obviously, that Saturday pig, the Wednesday night, put the death mark on the coffin, as it were, as well. But I think I'm happy to see that Valakaris getting on that season. I think he'll get them up or get them into the playoffs because I mean, to be honest, Jason, if it wasn't for him coming in at Christmas, St Johnstone would have been relegated in February.
Yeah, probably. It was. It has been a difficult season for St Johnstone because they've been at the bottom of the league for a real while now, pretty much since Hearts and Hibs kind of became a lot better and a little bit better. But yeah, I think St Johnstone, I do echo your point. I think they'll come back up because I think Valakari's shown that he's. You don't know. I think Valakari's shown that he's a good enough manager, and if they have players that are of similar level or better level than teams in the Championship, I think they'll do well, and I think he'll be able to bring them straight back up.
There's a game on tonight, guys. It is involving Livingston and Packet Thistle in the old Plastic Park. It's 2-0 to Livingston from the first leg. Don't know if you saw the first game, guys, but I thought Livingston got the job done, but I thought the first goal came on the run of play because I thought Packet Thistle were the better team.
Yeah, I caught bits of the first leg, and to be honest, I think Livingston were obviously the favourites with the way they kind of went throughout the season. They were just points away from obviously winning the league. They had a great end to the season, apart from obviously the last day of the season, where they of course lost to Partick Thistle. But I just had a weird feeling that Partick Thistle might have that weird story with Brian Graham and not having an actual real manager in a sense, because he's obviously a player manager, and I know Mark Wilson's there. But obviously Livingston done the job, and then I think it's a long way back for Partick Thistle. But yeah, it was fair to say that the opening goal maybe was against the run of play, but I think that's something that we've come accustomed to, especially with Livingston in the Premiership. They don't need a lot of the ball. They've shown against Celtic and Rangers, especially in the past, under Martindale. So yeah, I fancy Livingston now, and to be honest, I fancy Livingston to beat Ross County, who I'm calling to be second bottom of the Premiership.
Reagan, who do you fancy in this one? Are you still behind the manager that Livingston against that years ago, David Martindale, in your opinion, or do you fancy the Packet Thistle?
Yeah, I've made no bones about it, Michael. I'm a big fan of Partick Thistle. I've got a fondness for the club. I think they're a great club. They've got a great community spirit, and they do a lot for the community as well. So I'm right behind Partick Thistle for this game. But to be honest with you, I think it'll be one step too far for them. I think Livy just looked a bit more streetwise, a bit KFC, you know, a bit streetwise and whatever. Because I think in terms of what David Martindale's trying to do, I think he doesn't really care about playing good football. He just cares about getting through. And I think, like Ethan said earlier, I think it will be a very difficult match for the rest of the Premier League to deal with.
Yeah, it's going to be a big test for Thistle tonight, Ethan, because obviously they went into Ayr United, and albeit they were getting beat 1-0, and they came back to win that one 2-0 on the night. But I just feel though, that 2-0 is a difficult one to come back from. You never know. 90 minutes football's a fun little game and all that kind of stuff. But
Michael,
I would like, yeah.
I just wanted to go through some of the other playoff games as well.
Yep.
I know people talk about Partick Thistle and that, but we've obviously got some other games as well. We've got Cove Rangers against Ayr. That Cove Rangers against Airdrie. That's actually on. That's actually on BBC Alba tonight as well.
Okay.
BBC getting us better TV deals than Sky.
Yeah. No, exactly. And so there you go. So that's the games tonight. Of course, a big weekend in the Premiership as well. Thanks to everybody that's been watching the show for the past couple of hours, whether you've been out in the back door, out in your speedboat or whatever, or doing the Waverley, as I say. So thanks for watching. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks to Ethan. Thanks to Reagan, and thanks to Robbie, whoever Robbie is this week. I don't know who he is. I do know, but I don't want people to chap his window and say, yeah, by the way, I know who you are. So so enjoy your holiday, Robbie, and we will see you soon. So enjoy your weekend of football, and we will be back soon here on the locker room. And don't forget, we've got some big news to tell you about what's happening about the show for next season. So we'll try and give that news to you, fun enough, before the end of the season. So thanks to Ethan and Robbie and Reagan, and we'll speak to you soon.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need. Live